Currently, the United Nations is drafting an arms trade treaty to impose strict worldwide controls on firearms. They publicize armed violence takes the lives of 740,000 people each year. This is an exaggerated claim which they use to influence policymakers. Of that 740,000 number, they allege 490,000 are non-war-related homicides, and 250,000 deaths are directly or indirectly due to war. According to a recent study, those alleged figures are too high and are out of line with other research. The UN claims the figures are based on global homicide rates and statistical models they refuse to publish. Until thoroughly documented data is made public, the UN's claim is unsubstantiated. The Arms Trade Treaty demands worldwide gun registration and the destruction of all small arms. The treaty is backed and funded by IANSA, the International Action Network on Small Arms. IANSA is an international non-governmental organization that is financially supported by 120 countries, including Great Britain, Brazil, Canada, and Japan. IANSA played a significant role in the Australian gun ban legislation in 1997. The group has publicly stated they oppose the use of firearms for self-defense. IANSA is at war with Jewish law. Sadly, the organization is largely funded by billionaire hedge fund manager and Holocaust survivor George Soros. From 1979 to 2007, Soros's foundation, the Open Society Institute, has donated billions of dollars to promote his anti-American radical leftist worldview agenda. They support the election of political candidates who share their view. They subscribe to the notion of bringing American foreign policy under the control of the United Nations. And they have funneled tens of millions of dollars annually to gun control organizations in worldwide support of stricter gun control measures. Should IANSA and the UN succeed with their global gun control agenda, a non-elected body of bureaucrats would take the issue of gun control out of the hands of the U.S. electorate and undermine the Constitution. What's at stake is the Second Amendment. The language of the Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights is straightforward and very clear. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
This right to keep and bear arms is not something given to us by our government. It's a pre-existing right, as in a God-given right. And in fact, we find this right in the Torah.
The framers of the Constitution believed in God. They fought for the freedom from religious persecution. They firmly believe the right to self-defense is a fundamental God-given right, and the government's role is to protect that right.
In terms of supporting Second Amendment, we should be supporting elected officials who advocate gun rights. We should be advocating gun rights ourselves, and we should advocate for the repeal of the sorts of gun control measures that we have seen throughout the world and throughout history have severe consequences to the people that were subject to those restrictions.
Laws that protect rights must be fought for and preserved. No one would deny preserving the right to free speech or freedom of religious expression. And yet, many are willing to give up the protector of those rights, the Second Amendment. They are willing to give up the right of personal defense in exchange for security by someone who promises protection.
I specifically looked into this issue of personal defense. What are my Torah obligations? And what does the Torah have to say about firearms ownership, about gun ownership, about being prepared for such situations? And what I found was that Torah law is very, very clear, that God has an expectation that we will defend ourselves. We're required to do so by Torah law, and we are required to be prepared to defend ourselves against reasonable threats.
In Rambam, Laws of Robbery, Chapter 9, Paragraph 7 says, "One who breaks into a home, whether by day or night, if the homeowner or anyone else kills him, there is no crime." In fact, permission is given to anyone to intervene and kill the invader by any means necessary.
So, according to Maimonides, criminal trespass on your front lawn is already enough to justify the use of force to get this person off of your property. You need not wait until the person is inside of the home.
In Leviticus 19, verse 16, it is written, "Do not stand idly by your brother's blood."
Rashi says, do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. For example, if you see him dying and you can help, you are forbidden from standing by and doing nothing. In Jewish law, we have very few rights. We have obligations. One of our obligations in Jewish law is to defend and protect and save and rescue the innocent. Lo ta'amod al dam re'acha. If you see another person in trouble and you can help, you are required to help.
Contrary to the opinion of some Jews and Christians alike, the interpretation of the sixth commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," does not forbid the use of deadly force for defensive purposes. The original Hebrew translation of the sixth commandment is as follows, "Thou shalt not murder." The two words kill and murder have dramatically contrasting meanings.
There are certain areas that are strikingly different between Jewish law and secular law, or between God's law and man's law. So, for example, where I live in New Jersey, if there is someone inside of my home, I'm allowed to use a gun against that person. If there's someone inside my neighbor's home, and I went with my gun to protect my neighbor's home, I would be arrested and put on trial for that. In Jewish law, I have an obligation to help. And if I can help, but I don't, I am held culpable by God Himself. He holds me responsible. I answer to a higher authority. We as Jews have a choice. We can live by God's law, or we can die by man's law.